So now that we've got Constance's color all picked out, what we're gonna do, we're gonna draw in her eyebrows with the pigment and kind of sketch where we're gonna be drawing in everything with the actual blade when we start tattooing her. And so everybody that microblades does this a little differently. I'm pretty simple, as long as you can get everything lined up and symmetrical, which is pretty easy. You don't need any fancy tools really, just the person's face. We are microblading today with our lovely model, Constance. I'm gonna say that a million times because she's beautiful. Look at her eyelashes and it's killing me. You're welcome. I already know exactly what she wants on her eyebrows, how she wants them shaped. She likes a nice square look in the front, and she likes a nice full arch. And this color matches her eyebrows perfectly. I've pretty much been tormenting and plucking all my friends' eyebrows since I was like 13. I like forced them down, every single one of my friends, like, let me do your brows. So microblading is a semi-permanent eyebrow tattoo, and it is different from normal eyebrow tattoos where they use a tattooing gun. This, we use a very small, thin, fine blade. Looks just like this. It comes in many different sizes. I always use a number 12. So it's just this little blade, and you put in this little handle guy here. But essentially, I'm able to create very hair-like wispy strokes with a blade as opposed to a gun or a needle. So that's why it's a little bit different. And it's not like normal tattoos where they're completely permanent. This is semi-permanent, only lasts up to about 3 years, give or take, depending on skin type. Oily skin types don't hold it as well. You usually need more touch-ups. Dry skin types tend to absorb the pigment really well, and they tend to last a lot longer. But I'm kind of obsessed with microblading. The longevity of your brows is completely determined on how you take care of them at home. And definitely your skin type, that definitely takes part of it as well. But you wanna make sure you're not sitting out in the sun and baking your face. You wanna put sunscreen on your eyebrows if you do have them tattooed. You always want to make sure to not exfoliate or use any chemical peels around on your eyebrows. It will also exfoliate them quicker than we want. How's it feeling on this eyebrow, Constance? Is it all right?
Yeah, I can't feel anything.
Still can't feel anything? Ah, gosh, we numbed you good. That's awesome. A lot of people complain about microblading because it can be pretty touchy on the eyebrows, that's for certain.
How would you compare microblading to getting a tattoo?
It's a lot different because instead of just poking down into the skin with pigment, we're slicing kind of. That sounds bad. I know that sounds bad, but we're not going very deep in the skin. You can see there's no blood. Sometimes there's a little blood, but I have an epinephrine I always put on to keep the blood gone. So if blood freaks you out, people, there will be no blood.
So I know tattoos get really, really itchy. How would you suggest alleviating that if you are to keep it dry?
I'm okay with alleviating the itch after the first, as long as you keep them dry for that first 48 hours, you can use a little bit of Vaseline throughout the week to kind of keep them a little less itchy, because they will be itchy. And one of my clients yesterday described to me, she's like, oh my gosh, my eyebrows look like bacon bits because they kind of crumble and fall off. Not crumble and fall off, but the pigment kind of falls out with the dead skin once it heals. It's not so much of a scab so much, but it's just kind of flaky skin, looks like brow dandruff is usually what I say. So that's essentially what it is, just dead skin. The healing process, it's fun. People get really freaked out with the healing process because it's a little bit intense and it's kind of scary. They will look the nicest on day 1, and day 2 they start to become very, very dark because the tattoo is healing. So people become very terrified that their brows are just gonna look like Groucho Marx for a very long time. I'm like, no, don't worry. They'll kind of fade and they'll kind of blend more in after they heal up really nicely. There's a possibility I might take off like 1 or 2 hairs, but as far as damaging the hair, a lot of people say that their hair grows back more after I do their microblading. And I think it's because they're plucking less, but I feel like there's somehow a way that it's almost stimulating the hair growth because people come back and they're like, my hair's growing in here. Like, well, it's probably because you have a tattoo now there and you don't pluck it anymore. Skin type, basically, if you have an oilier skin type, it tends to not like microblading as much. Oily skin types tend to not hold the pigment as well. Dry skin types just kind of slurp up all the pigment and they hold it much better. And a little more lidocaine on here. This is so popular. Since I've started doing it, like I used to have a pretty, not empty schedule, but since I started microblading, my schedule is like always full. It's a kind of newer type of eyebrow tattoo. It hasn't been around very long. And then these are just cloths with water on them. They're just regular old 4x4s. If everyone's wondering what I'm wiping her eyebrow with. You can see over here all of her tattoo as well, which is, it's just, I love, it's so awesome to see it underneath there. And all that's tatted. On a scale of like 1 to 10, Constance, how much is your pain right now? 10 being the most painful.
None.
Good. I love to hear that.